This happened last year during Ridgeway's Spring Fest, which, if you've never been, is kind of like the college town version of a music festival mashed together with a county fair. It's loud, it's packed, and it's the one time of year when even the quietest students crawl out of their dorms to exist in sunlight. There were food trucks lined up past Oak Ridge Green, rides spinning near the old Marlowe house, and a headliner nobody saw coming. It was chaos in the fun way. I remember thinking it felt like something you'd want to bottle up, this kind of suburban energy where nothing ever really goes wrong. I'd been out for hours, bouncing between friends, taking blurry pictures that I still haven't deleted. By the time I decided to head back to Carson Hall, the crowd had thinned out. The music was still going in the distance, but the energy was shifting. People were starting to disappear into dorms or off-campus parties. I didn't feel weird about walking back alone. Ridgeway's the kind of school where even the sketchy corners don't feel that sketchy, and the neighborhood around it, Maple Ridge, Oak Ridge, all of it, has that peaceful street lamp and cricket vibe. You don't really think about danger when the worst thing you've seen is a bad freshman haircut or a raccoon digging through a trash can. So I walked. No earbuds in, just the usual hum of the late-night campus. I wasn't drunk or disoriented or anything, just tired. I remember passing the Marlowe house and seeing the lights still glowing in a few windows. There's something kind of comforting about that building, honestly. I didn't know it yet, but I was already stepping into something I wouldn't fully understand even after it was over. And I keep thinking, it really did feel normal, until it didn't. What's weird is how much can be happening around you without you having the slightest clue. I found out the next morning, actually, more like late afternoon, because I slept in. That stuff had already started going down while I was still out at Springfest. People had apparently seen masked figures, like actual ski masks, not COVID masks, riding around campus on bikes, knocking on random dorm doors, just being weird. Some were even banging on them hard enough to freak people out. And the strangest part, it wasn't just rumors. There were posts, videos, real-time updates flying around that night, and I missed all of it. I hadn't checked my phone, no notifications, no group chats, nothing. I just assumed it was a normal night winding down. And yeah, maybe that's on me, maybe I should have checked. But honestly, there was nothing in the air that made me feel unsafe. The streets weren't empty. There were still a few students out walking, voices echoing from some off-campus apartment nearby. It all felt like that mellow part of the night where everything is winding down. Quiet, but not eerie. Looking back, it's unsettling how disconnected I was from it. Like I was moving through a completely different version of campus than everyone else who was already on edge. It's not like Ridgeway has some crime reputation. This isn't a city school. It's tucked into one of those neighborhoods where people leave their porch lights on and still trust their mail won't get stolen. I keep replaying it. How many people saw those posts and decided to stay inside? How many saw something and didn't say anything? And how many, like me, just walked right into it? Not because we were brave, but because we just didn't know. I remember the click of my ID card as I swiped into Carson Hall, the tiny beep like background noise to an otherwise quiet building. It was late, yeah, but the lobby lights were still on, casting that weird yellow glow that always made the place feel half asleep. I wasn't expecting anything, just the usual empty silence before heading upstairs. But as I passed through the entryway, I saw him. Someone was sitting alone in the lounge. At first, I didn't think anything of it. It's a dorm. People crash on those ugly couches all the time. Half the time they're on their phones or passed out with a textbook. But this guy wasn't doing any of that. He was just still, and then I noticed what he was wearing. Not a hoodie, not a beanie pulled low, a full ski mask, all black. He wasn't scrolling through anything or watching TV. No music, no food, just sitting there, dead silent, like he was waiting for something, but not in the normal way people wait. It felt performative, like I was meant to see him, like that was the whole point. My legs actually stopped moving. I just stood there, maybe 10 feet from the lounge, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. Was this a prank? Some dumb social experiment? Part of me tried to rationalize it because none of it added up. Then suddenly he moved, fast, clean, like he'd been waiting for the moment I noticed him. He stood up, just one sharp motion, and I didn't wait to see what came next. I turned and ran, heart pounding before my brain even had the words for why. All I knew was something was off, and I didn't want to find out what. The second I turned that corner, I scanned for the closest door and ducked into the communal bathroom just past the laundry alcove. It was empty, thank God, and I slammed the lock into place like muscle memory. Then I just stood there, frozen, the kind of stillness where every sound becomes exaggerated. I remember how loud my breathing felt, like it was echoing against the tile. I didn't hear anyone following me. No footsteps, but that silence wasn't comforting. It was loaded. I stood by the sink at first, facing the mirror, trying to talk myself down. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe he was just cold. Maybe I'm being dramatic. I don't know why I didn't pull out my phone. My fingers brushed the edge of it in my pocket, and I thought about it. Thought about texting someone. Maybe even calling campus security. But I didn't. Maybe part of me still wanted to believe this wasn't serious. Then I glanced down, and there it was. A shadow, thin and tall, stretching just enough to touch the floor under the door. I froze. It wasn't moving, not pacing, not shifting, just planted there. Like someone had stopped directly in front of the door and didn't feel the need to make a sound. That was the part that really got to me. Not the presence itself, but the way it lingered, like it had time. I don't know how long I stared at that line of darkness under the door. A minute? More? I didn't breathe right until it started to retract, slow and casual. No sound, no footsteps fading, just gone. Even now, I can't shake the feeling that he wasn't just passing through. He knew I was in there, and he was waiting. For what? I still don't know. After what felt like forever, I finally cracked the bathroom door open. Just a sliver at first. The hallway looked empty, just the hum of the overhead lights and that faint detergent smell that always lingered near the laundry room. Nothing felt different, but I couldn't shake the tension in my chest. I stepped out, half expecting to hear footsteps or see movement down the hall, but nothing came. It was just me and that eerie silence. I kept telling myself maybe he left, maybe he was just some weirdo messing around and it was over now. But when I turned the corner and caught sight of the lounge again, he was still there. Same mask, same posture, like he'd never moved. But this time there was something new. Against the exit door, my only way out, there was a bike leaned just slightly at an angle, and a chair was shoved between the doorframe and the wall, not blocking it entirely, but wedged there awkwardly, like someone had tried to jam it shut. It didn't look random, it looked intentional. I don't even know how long I stood there trying to process it. My brain was just buzzing, like it couldn't keep up with what my eyes were seeing. I had this tiny pepper spray clipped to my keychain. It was more of a novelty than anything, a gift from my mom when I moved in freshman year. I held it in front of me like it was some kind of force field. I didn't raise it, didn't point it, just showed it. I think I hoped he'd see it and back off. But he didn't react, not even a flinch. He just watched, like he was waiting, like I was the reason he was there at all. And somehow that was worse than if he'd chased me. Once I finally pushed through that side door and stepped out onto Maple Ridge, I thought I was in the clear. The air hit me like a reset, cool, open, and wide enough to breathe again. I remember thinking that as long as I stayed on the sidewalk, under the streetlights, I'd be fine. I just needed to get a few blocks out, maybe call someone from the main road. It felt like a plan, like maybe the night was over. But then I heard the tires, that soft crunch of gravel and grass. At first, I thought it was nothing. A student heading back late like me. Then 2 more rolled up. Bikes, 3 of them, all coming in quiet, then fanning out like they'd done this before. They didn't shout or make any dramatic moves, just started riding beside me, circling slow like vultures trying to figure out if I was going to run. They were all wearing masks, not identical, but close, cheap-looking ski masks pulled tight, and they were laughing, not in a fun way, not like kids being stupid. It was high-pitched, warped, like they were trying to see how far they could push it. I couldn't make out what they were saying, just tones, snatches of words that didn't feel like they were meant to be understood. It felt rehearsed, like they'd done this kind of thing before. 2 of them had something in their hands. Long, black, shaped like guns. I don't know if they were real. Could have been airsoft. could have been nothing, but in that moment it didn't matter. They weren't showing them off, they were wielding them, just enough to be seen. I didn't run, I didn't speak, I just walked fast but steady, like any sudden movement would tip something over. And they let me. They didn't touch me. They didn't need to. I made it to the corner of Maple Ridge without saying a word. My hands were shaking but not visibly, just enough that it took a few tries to unlock my phone. I texted a friend. Nothing dramatic, just, "Can you come out?" He met me near the stop sign. I didn't explain, didn't unload. I just needed someone to stand next to me for the rest of the walk. That felt safer. The bikers were gone by then. No sound, no trace, like the whole thing had just dissolved into the dark. We walked back toward Carson. I don't remember saying anything on the way. I didn't know how to explain what just happened without sounding paranoid or worse, like I was imagining it. I hadn't been hurt. Nothing had been stolen, and yet I felt like something had been taken. Some sense of normalcy or safety. I didn't report it that night. What would I even say? That a group of masked guys watched me walk across campus and didn't do anything. That one of them stood outside a bathroom door without saying a word. That they waved around maybe guns, maybe toys, and still managed to make my legs feel like concrete. The next day I told my mom. She didn't hesitate. She filed a report before I even finished the full story. Later that evening, a couple of guys I knew texted me, said they'd had weird run-ins too. Same descriptions, same masks, same question marks around what the hell it all was. Campus security got involved after that, but I don't think anyone ever figured it out. Or if they did, no one said much. I live in Carson Hall. It's supposed to be just another suburban dorm, and now I still flinch a little when I walk home alone, even when nothing's there. This happened a few summers back, in the kind of quiet suburban neighborhood where nothing really happens. Ridge Hill. My parents decided totally out of the blue to take a weekend trip. Just the two of them. No warning, no big reason, just gone. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but if you knew them, you'd get it. They don't do spontaneity. They're the type to vacuum the garage and alphabetize canned goods for fun. So yeah, it threw me. At first, I was excited. I mean, who wouldn't be? House to myself for a couple of days? No questions, no hovering. It was supposed to feel like freedom, but instead, something about it just felt off. Not in a spooky way. Not yet. Just this weird tension in the air I couldn't explain. Like the walls were listening. Like the house wasn't used to being empty like that, and didn't quite know how to handle it either. I kept glancing at the front door that first night, expecting it to swing open, half thinking I'd hear keys jingling, or my mom's voice asking if I'd taken the trash out. Every little creak sounded too loud. The fridge cycling on startled me, and it's not like I was scared, not exactly. It was more like the house had too much space in it, like their absence was stretching it out, making it echo in places it never had before. I guess what I'm saying is, the whole weekend started with this subtle feeling I couldn't shake, like something wasn't aligning properly. I didn't know it yet, but that off feeling, that was the first sign, the smallest ripple in what was about to become the most unnerving weekend of my life. Kara showed up around dusk, carrying that usual spark she always had, like she already knew something exciting was going to happen. She had this way of making everything feel like a game, like the rules didn't matter if you were having fun. Me? I've always been the one who reads the instructions twice before plugging anything in, so when she suggested we go for a swim, I hesitated. But the house was ours, the night was warm, and something about her made it impossible to say no without feeling like a buzzkill. The pool was glowing, almost too perfectly. You know how some things look fake because they're too ideal. That's how it felt, like a movie set. The water gave off this soft steam into the night air, and from where we floated we could see straight through the living room windows. They were huge, old bay-style glass panes that caught all the indoor light and reflected nothing back. We were lit up like mannequins in a storefront. I kept noticing that, kept thinking how anyone out there in the dark could see us crystal clear, and we wouldn't see them at all. That contrast, bright inside, black outside, it made me feel weirdly exposed, like a fish in a bowl, but I didn't want to ruin the moment. Kara was laughing, carefree, and for a second I told myself to just be in it, to stop overthinking, but that little voice didn't go away. That background hum in my brain saying you're being watched. I brushed it off, like I always do. I've never been the paranoid type, but looking back now, I wonder if that uneasiness I felt, maybe it wasn't mine, maybe it belonged to the house, or to whoever else might have been out there. It was quick. So quick I almost convinced myself it didn't happen. One of those blinks where your brain says, "Wait, what was that?" But I know I saw it. Something moved inside the house, behind the glass. Not a reflection, not some weird light trick. It was in there. A shadow, sort of, but too solid to be just light playing games. It moved along the far wall of the living room, where no one was supposed to be. Just this dark shape slipping past, like it belonged there, casual, unbothered. My first instinct was to rationalize it. Maybe Kara's phone was casting something. Maybe a curtain moved. But no, the curtains were still. The lights weren't flickering. It was just one of those movements that triggers something primitive in you, like your body knows before your mind does. My chest got tight, this heavy clamp of pressure right between my ribs. I couldn't breathe for a second. Kara didn't notice. She was still floating, talking about something I can't even remember now. Her voice just faded into the background as I kept staring at that spot, waiting for it to happen again, for the shape to come back. But it never did. What's strange is how foggy everything got after that, like my brain short-circuited. I remember thinking about getting out of the water. I remember trying to keep my face calm so Kara wouldn't pick up on it. But my mind was already spiraling. Trying to work backwards. Was the door locked? Had I turned off the hallway light? Was that chair in the corner earlier? That's the part that sticks with me. How something so small, a shadow, can derail every ounce of logic you think you have. I was making my way through the house. Still wet, still barefoot, still holding that stupid kitchen knife like I knew what I was doing with it. I hadn't even turned on many lights. I didn't want to draw attention. From what, I wasn't sure yet. That's the part that messes with your head. You're not scared of something specific. You're scared of not knowing what you're scared of. When I got to the guest room, I didn't expect anything. I don't think I'd even meant to open the door, just sort of checked it on instinct. But the knob didn't turn. It didn't even budge. It was locked, and everything in me just went still. That door's never locked. We don't even use that room much unless someone's staying over. The lock's old, one of those basic privacy knobs that only turn from the inside. No keyhole on the outside. No real way to secure it unless you're in there. That realization hit like cold water. If it was locked, it wasn't from my side. I stood there too long trying to convince myself there was a normal reason. Maybe my dad locked it before they left. But that made no sense. He never does that. Why would he? Why would anyone? Then I heard it. Just a soft, dull sound, like a shuffle. Or maybe something brushing against the carpet. Could have been the house settling. Could have been nothing. But my mind didn't buy it. Not for a second. My thoughts were racing so fast, I didn't even notice how hard I was gripping the knife until my knuckles ached. That door, that tiny quiet door, suddenly felt like a wall between me and something I couldn't see but could almost feel. I kept moving through the house, trying to look for anything obvious. A broken lock, a footprint, something, but everything looked normal. Too normal, honestly. That was the problem. It all looked just as I'd left it, but with these small, almost imperceptible differences, things I might have missed if I wasn't already so on edge. One of the dining chairs was pulled out, just slightly. Not enough to scream, "Someone sat here," but enough to make me hesitate. The thermostat on the wall showed a temperature a few degrees lower than what I'd set it to earlier, and there was a cup sitting on the kitchen counter, half full. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't mine. I hadn't used it. Kara hadn't either. She was still hiding out back, waiting for me to give the all clear. It was like the house had been used in just the subtlest ways. Like someone had moved through it, deliberately avoiding big disturbances. Not stealing, not vandalizing, just existing, quietly, like they belonged there. When the cops showed up, I tried to explain all of this. I walked them through every off detail I could find, but the more I talked, the less credible I sounded, even to myself. They did their sweep, checked all the doors, asked me the usual questions. Then came the look. The kind that says, "You're wasting our time, kid." And maybe I was. Maybe I just freaked myself out. But there was something in their disbelief that made it worse. Because now I was left alone in a house that looked untouched, but didn't feel untouched. Every inch of it felt like it had been observed, moved through, lived in, just enough to disturb something I couldn't prove. I don't even know what time it was. Sometime past 3, maybe later. I hadn't really slept. I don't think Kara had either. We'd locked ourselves in my bedroom, pushed the dresser against the door like that would actually do something. She was curled up on the floor with a blanket. I sat on the edge of the bed, just listening. Every sound felt louder in that kind of silence. At first, I thought it was the house settling, old wood and changing temperatures. Typical stuff. But this wasn't random. It was rhythmic. It was steps. First above us, then slowly, painfully slowly, down the hallway toward the stairs. Not heavy, not rushed, just deliberate, like someone was trying not to wake us. There's something really specific about the sound of stairs being descended by someone who isn't supposed to be there. You feel it before you fully hear it. I didn't want to move. Every instinct told me to stay put. But something made me get up. Not bravery, just the kind of numb, wired anxiety that keeps your body ahead of your brain. When I cracked the door open and peeked through the hallway, it was empty. I made my way toward the front of the house, knife still in hand. But the moment I saw the door, I stopped cold. It was open. Not wide, not swinging, just cracked. Enough that the night air was seeping in. Enough that it made the shadows inside stretch differently. No wind, no noise. Just this perfectly open door that had definitely been locked. I don't remember how long I stood there staring at it. I didn't chase after anything. I didn't check the street. There was just this quiet knowledge that whoever had been there, they'd already left. Or maybe they hadn't. Maybe they were just done for the night. I didn't notice it right away. Morning always brings a weird kind of clarity after a night like that. The light looks too clean. The house feels different, safer, almost like the sun just wipes everything away. But it doesn't, not really. I was trying to make coffee, just going through the motions. That's when I saw the knife block. Empty, completely empty. Every single knife, gone. Even the little serrated one no one ever uses. Even the old one with the chipped handle we kept for fruit, just vanished. At first I thought maybe I'd moved them. Maybe Kara did. Maybe something stupid and explainable had happened that I'd just forgotten in the chaos. But I checked the drawers. I checked the dishwasher. I opened every cabinet, even the stupid ones above the fridge we never use. Nothing. Not a single blade left in the house. That's when it really hit me. Whoever had been there, they weren't trying to rob us. They weren't looking for valuables or electronics. They took some things. Sure, cash, maybe a watch, but the knives, that was different. That was intentional. It wasn't about what they took. It was about what they left me with. The implication, the message, if you can even call it that. They'd been in the house longer than I realized. They'd walked through it, probably watched us, maybe listened to us, and they took every single thing that could be used to protect ourselves. I've run through it in my head 100 times. Where they hid, how they got in, why they waited. None of it lines up. I never found out. The police didn't either. Eventually, the questions just settled into the walls like dust. But sometimes I still check that block, just to be sure. This was 2 summers ago, feels longer somehow, and I still find myself turning it over in my head sometimes. Not often, just when I let my mind wander to the kind of thoughts that don't go anywhere. Anyway, Camille's house ended up being the spot that summer, and it made sense on the surface. The place was massive. We're talking 3 floors, huge windows, weirdly quiet hallways. One of those homes where you never quite know if you're alone or not, even when you are. It was the kind of suburban setup that always looked like it was waiting for a magazine photographer to show up. White stone countertops, blackout curtains that glided shut with the press of a button, and art that didn't mean anything. A perfect backdrop for a party, apparently. Her parents weren't around. They rarely were. I don't remember what the excuse was that time. Some out-of-state conference, or maybe a retreat. Something vague, probably intentionally so. That was normal for them. Camille didn't talk about them much. Not in a resentful way, more like they were background noise in her life. The kind of people who contributed money and square footage, not presence. So when the counselors started throwing around ideas for where to host the end of summer bash, her place was pretty much it by default. I hadn't been dating Camille the year before, so I missed whatever wild stories came out of that first summer. I remember thinking it would be fun. Music, drinks, stupid stories, whatever. A chance to unwind. I really thought it would be simple. Just one more party in a quiet upper-middle-class neighborhood that liked to pretend nothing bad ever happened. But that's the thing about suburbs, isn't it? They hide things well. Things didn't fall apart right away. It's always more subtle than that. I remember when Jesse showed up. Sunglasses indoors, fake confidence dialed to 11, like he thought he was auditioning for some reality show. No one was filming. He walked in like the party had been waiting for him, and Camille didn't exactly push back. She laughed at his jokes, leaned in when he talked, said it was just his way, that he was harmless. Maybe she was right. I don't know, but I'd seen that kind of harmless before, and it always had a cost. I didn't want to be that guy. The one who makes a scene over something that looks small from the outside. We'd argued about stuff like that before. She always told me I was reading too much into things, and maybe I was. But it didn't stop me from feeling it. So instead of starting something, I played it off, acted cool, poured Jesse drinks, smiled through it, played the host. There's a petty kind of satisfaction in watching someone unravel by their own hand. Jesse didn't pace himself. By midnight, he was passed out in the basement, drooling into a couch cushion. People thought it was funny. I played along, but somewhere deep down, it didn't feel like a win. It felt hollow, like I'd sunk to something I didn't recognize in myself. Camille wasn't impressed. She gave me that look, the one that said she knew exactly what I'd done and didn't have the energy to argue. We didn't fight, not really. Just one of those low-grade disagreements that hangs in the air for the rest of the night, like cigarette smoke. I remember thinking, maybe I overplayed it. Maybe this whole thing was going to spiral. But it was too early to know that for sure. Sometime past midnight, the inside of the house started feeling claustrophobic. Not in the literal sense. It was huge, but that kind of social claustrophobia where every sound starts blending together and your head feels full of noise. So I slipped out through the side door and stood on the driveway for a bit, just trying to breathe. The concrete was still warm from the day, but the air had cooled down. Quiet, finally. That's when I noticed someone standing near the curb, just outside the reach of the porch light. At first I figured he was waiting for an Uber or maybe got dropped off late. Happens. Except, he wasn't moving, just standing there, facing the house like he was sizing it up. And that stillness, it wasn't normal. It was practiced. I walked a few steps toward him, cautiously. I don't even remember what I was going to say. I think I told myself I was being neighborly, whatever that means. But before I could say much, he asked if my parents were home, which already felt off. I didn't look like I lived there, and even if I did, who shows up to a party asking for someone's parents? And then he said their names. Not Mr. or Mrs. something. He said Camille's parents' full names, like he'd rehearsed it, like he knew them. That's the moment it shifted from weird to wrong. My stomach turned cold. I told him they were upstairs, total lie. He didn't react, just nodded once, said okay, and walked down the street like he was done checking something off a list. I should have called someone, should have said something. But I didn't. I just stood there, heart racing, convincing myself I was overreacting. But that buzzing in my head, it didn't stop. It must have been maybe 15-20 minutes after I saw that guy outside when I heard someone crying in the kitchen. Not yelling, just this low, shaky sobbing that cut through the music like it didn't belong. I walked in expecting some drunk drama, maybe a breakup or a bad text or someone finally hitting their wall for the night. But it was Riley. She was curled up on one of the bar stools, face buried in her arms, shoulders shaking. Someone was trying to talk to her, but she wasn't making much sense. I didn't know her that well. She was one of Camille's camp friends, but I remember thinking she didn't seem like the type to spiral like this for no reason. Eventually she said something about a man, said she saw him through the back fence standing near the gate, just standing, not trying to get in, not walking past, just watching. No expression, she said, just still. Everyone else brushed it off. A couple of the guys laughed, said maybe it was a neighbor or someone who got lost. Someone even joked that maybe it was a ghost, and Riley should stop mixing drink with God knows what. She didn't laugh. She just kept saying he was real. I didn't say anything. I just stood there trying to keep my face from giving anything away. Because what she described, it was him. The guy I'd seen earlier. Same vibe, same stillness, same wrongness. No part of me thought it was just some coincidence. But I stayed quiet. I remember thinking, if I say something it becomes real, and maybe I wasn't ready for that yet. Maybe some part of me hoped, if I just ignored it, it would stay on the edge of the story, something strange but distant. But that's not how these things work. The doorbell shouldn't have meant anything. But it did. It was faint under the music, just a quick ding, but it cut through everything, like it wasn't part of the night. I froze. I don't know why. Maybe because it felt out of place in a house that big, during a party that loud, but mostly because nobody was supposed to be using the front. That was the one rule Camille repeated more than once. Use the back gate, don't ring the front. The front door was locked earlier too. I remembered checking, but now it had been opened. When I got there, Bryn was already inside, giggling in that slow, uncoordinated way that told me she was way past her limit. She looked dazed, like she wasn't even sure why she was in the foyer. I asked her what happened, half knowing I wouldn't get a straight answer, and she mumbled something about a guy who said he was a friend of Camille's parents. She said he looked like he needed something back, that he was polite, that he seemed normal. I don't know what part of me didn't explode in that moment. Maybe I just short-circuited. I didn't ask her how he convinced her, or what exactly he said. I didn't yell. I didn't even respond. My body just moved, straight up the stairs, fast, like something in my brain had already accepted that things were about to go bad, and now I was just catching up. I remember taking the steps 2 at a time, not even thinking, not even afraid yet. Just this heavy sense that whatever line had been holding this night together had just snapped. The upstairs was almost unnervingly still, like the air itself was waiting. I remember how muffled everything felt. The music was still going somewhere downstairs, but it was distant now, just thumping through the floor like a heartbeat that didn't belong to me. Camille's door was half shut, and I glanced in for a second. She was out cold, twisted in her sheets, completely unaware. She always slept heavy when she drank. Sometimes I envied that. But her parents' room, that was the one wide open. The second I stepped in, I knew. The drawers had been yanked open, some half hanging out like broken teeth. A jewelry box was sitting on the edge of the dresser, completely empty. Stuff had clearly been taken, fast but not carelessly. No mess, no chaos, just things missing. I didn't move at first. Just stood there trying to map it all in my head, trying to figure out how long it had been since Bryn said she let that guy in, wondering if he was still in the house, wondering how I hadn't heard anything, how no one had. And then I saw it. Not him, at first, just the mirror on the back of the closet door. A shift, like someone ducking, like a shadow trying to unbecome itself. I barely had time to turn before he was on me. Just this surge of weight and motion and blind panic. My back hit the floor hard, and for a second I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. He was clawing at my shirt like he was looking for something, or maybe trying to keep me down. I shoved. I don't even remember doing it. Just the sound of the window behind him creaking open, then gone, just like that, out the window, onto the roof, vanished. I didn't chase. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, lungs on fire, trying to wrap my head around the fact that I hadn't imagined any of it, that it really happened. I didn't know what else to do, so I called the cops, not because I thought they'd catch the guy, or even take it seriously. I just needed the night to end. I needed everyone gone. The officers who showed up, recognized Camille's last name, gave me a look like they already knew how this was going to play out. No one got in trouble. No questions beyond the surface level stuff. Just enough of a presence to send people packing. Jesse was still on the basement couch when I went to get him. He looked like he didn't even remember the first half of the night. Threw up in the hedges, wiped his mouth, and called a car like nothing had happened. Like the party was just over. Like none of it mattered. Camille didn't ask about the cops. Didn't ask why I called. She went back to bed. The next morning she made the call to her parents. Put it on speaker. I sat in the corner of the room just listening. They were mad, furious actually, but in that weird cold way, the kind of anger that sounds rehearsed. They asked if anything important was taken. She told them yeah, probably. They sighed, cursed once or twice, and then it was over. No follow-up, no talk of filing a report, no urgency. Camille said there weren't any cameras in the house anyway, which I hadn't realized until then, and she didn't care. Or at least she acted like she didn't. Like the whole thing was just a blip, a hassle, not a violation. That's what stuck with me more than anything. That blank shrug, and I don't know. Maybe that's when it started really unraveling for me. Not just the night, but Camille, us, myself, the choices I made to stay quiet, the parts I didn't want to see, still not sure what to make of it. Maybe I never will.